It's great to be here tonight. I'm going to ask Nikki to come on up. She's going to join me for just a little bit this evening. This is a little different. We've never done this before. This is we're going to try it out on y'all. How's that work? But this is kind of a different situation. I've never gone to present to a church that's already been led to support us. So it's different in that way. And then, of course, with all the kids out there and everything, we wanted to just do something a little bit different. I first of all want to just kind of share with you what God has called us to do. We've got a video that I want to go ahead and play. You know what? I guess I didn't need to call you up here right now. Sorry. Well, you can take the microphone with you. All right. So we're going to go ahead and play the video, and then Nikki and I are going to come up here, and we've got some things we want to share. Okay. Now let's go ahead and play it. In the book of Mark, Christ commanded his churches to go into all the world and preach the gospel. Hi, we're the Phillips family. Anthony, Nikki, Kylie, Josh, and Taylor Phillips. And we've been sent to go and preach the gospel to the people of France. Many of you know Steve Rutherford, who was a missionary to Romania for many years. Well, in April of 2017, God led him to become the new pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in Orlando, Florida. Calvary is now our sending church, and Pastor Steve is, well, our pastor. You get the point. France is a country with a proud heritage. Many of us know France through movies, music, and books. France is well known for its beautiful art, fine cuisine, and beautiful landscapes. It's often thought of as a country of beauty, romance, and love. Yet when we look at France from a spiritual perspective, it's a place of darkness. In my travels, I'm often asked the same question: why France? That's a broad question, but it's not really a hard one to answer. We're going to France because France needs the gospel. Geographically, the country is only about the size of Texas, but it has a population of over 66 million people. A study done by the French Baptist Association says that throughout the nation of France, there's only one evangelical church for every 30,000 people. Let me say that again, one for every 30,000 people in France. Yet if we're to be honest, there are many places across the world with statistics that would be similar to these. So the main reason why we're going to France is because that's where God has called us to go. We are excited to share with you and your church what God has sent us to do. Each of us in the Phillips family have a burden to reach the unsaved people of France with the only message that will ever deliver them from their sin, the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our plan is simple. We're going to, number one, preach the gospel. Number two, plant French churches. And number three, to teach and strengthen national pastors. We trust that God is completely able to supply all of our needs as we work with Him in France. But we know that He often supplies those needs through His people. We are still seeking churches and people like you who feel led to partner with us in this ministry. And so here's how you can be a part of what God is doing in France. First, pray and see if God would have you or your church to become monthly supporters. And number two, if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, request to join our Facebook prayer team. If you would like to keep up with us, visit our website at www.thephillipsinfrance.com. And there you will find all kinds of information, including photos, a blog that you can read to keep up with our work, our monthly reports, and much more. Pray for us, and pray for the people of France. All right, so let me start out first by just sharing with you how this all came about. I moved to Orlando about 8 years ago. That's when God called us to Orlando. Had a great ministry there, but my heart has always been in mission work. I wanted to get involved in mission work even while we were in Orlando. You know, a couple of times we had looked at maybe becoming the sending church for a missionary, and we had actually put some money back, you know, in case the Lord did put a certain place on our heart or had us to go working somewhere. And I'm glad that they did, because later on they were able to turn around and send that money towards eventually the mission field they are sending a missionary to. I just never thought that missionary was going to be me, you know, when we were doing all that. So, but mission work has been on my heart ever since since I got out of high school. You know, the first place we went was on the mission field. Nikki and I lived there for 4 years in Columbia, Missouri, helping to establish a church up there. And our first two children were born there. Kylie, which is my clone, if you've seen her, and then Josh back there as well. They were both born in Columbia, and mission work was that was what I felt called to do. I was planning on leaving Columbia to go be a missionary, but God said not yet. You know, I needed to go to seminary, and so I went to seminary. And I went to seminary with the intentions of, once I graduated, I was going to be a missionary. That's what I was called to do. And then God said, no, if you want to be a missionary, you need to pastor first. And so I had to kind of put on the brakes again. And the Lord led me to New Prospect Baptist Church in Phillips, Arkansas. I was there for 3 years. God led us to Orlando, and like I said, we just had a wonderful ministry there. 8 years, just about 8 years that we were there. But in the last year or so, that burden and desire began coming back to be a missionary, to be involved in mission work. I was doing the very best that I could to be a missionary even there while we were in Orlando. We're reaching out to people who had addictions. We were trying to start a Spanish ministry and different things like that. But I just started noticing that while I felt that was what God wanted the church to do, I didn't feel as if I was really where I was supposed to be, where I needed to be. And so that just grew more and more. And last year, as that was growing on one side, God also began giving me a deep curiosity and an interest in the nation of France. I didn't know what was going on in France. I wasn't sure spiritually where they were or what their needs were, but God just gave me a deep interest. And that interest, as I began looking and researching and finding more and more out about France, that eventually became a burden on my heart, to the point where we had set money aside to go on a mission trip. And I knew when we set the first dollar aside to go on a mission trip to France, I knew it wasn't a mission trip. I didn't want to say that. It wasn't coming out loud in any way, but I knew that wasn't a mission trip. I was going to investigate. And the more we began planning and things like that, the more I began realizing for sure what was going on. And so I told Nikki, the very first of this year, I told her that I felt God was leading us to leave Calvary and go to France as missionaries. And so we devoted about a month and a half to just praying about that, just seeing if that's what the Lord would have us to do. And we felt that God confirmed that. And one of the ways He confirmed that was He put that same burden on my family. And He burdened Nikki's heart about that. The older two, I think I shared this at the Ladies Auxiliary, but our older two kids both came to us on their own time and told us that they also felt that God had given them a burden for France. And then I always tell this story. Taylor's already cupping her hands and her face in her hands, but when I was talking to Taylor about this, when I said France, she said, "Let's go," you know. And so that was her response. Never had to really wait around on her. She was just ready to go. But anyway, so we just continued to pray. God continued to show us what we needed to do. And so I let the church know about it. The second Sunday of February, I told the church what God had called us to do. I also resigned the church that same night and prayed and asked them to allow that to be effective on April 30th because I didn't want to leave the church without a pastor. That was very important to me. We love that church, and I didn't want to leave them in the wrong way. So I asked them to make that effective April 30th. By the second Sunday in April, God blessed them with a pastor. And Steve Rutherford, who was a missionary, I talked about, y'all saw his cartoon figure up here, but he was a missionary to Romania for 16 years. He has a lot of experience on the mission field. I can't think of a better pastor for us, you know. And so he came in, he got excited and burdened. The church was burdened about what God had called us to do. Although they were sad to see us go, they wanted to be behind us. And so the Sunday after they called him as pastor, they turned around and decided to become our sending church. And so we're sent out by our home church there in Orlando, Florida. Now, Brother Marlowe wanted me to talk a little bit about what that cost, you know, the commitment that took. And I'm going to tell you, I haven't had a real rough life. That was the hardest thing I've ever done. That was very difficult. Calvary became our family. Those people became our brothers and sisters, our cousins, our aunts and uncles, our grandparents. That was our family. And leaving them, knowing that, you know, that if I wanted to, I could have stayed there till I died. I mean, we just had a wonderful relationship. And knowing that I was going to have to leave all of them, that our kids were going to have to leave our friends, it was very, very tough. It's been a very difficult year for us in that terms. But I knew what the Lord was leading us to do. He had just shown too many ways that we were supposed to be going to France as missionaries. And so somebody asked me not too long ago, they said, well, actually what they were doing, they were asking about all this, and then they made a statement. They said, I don't know that I would have enough faith to do something like that. And you know, I've heard people make that statement to me before, like, it must take a lot of faith to do what you're doing. And faith is involved. We've had to trust God every step of the way. But what I told him, I said, you know, really, at the time, it wasn't a matter of faith. It was a matter of obedience. When it came down to it, when I knew that that's what God was calling us to do, the question was I going to be obedient to what he was calling us to do, or was I going to be disobedient? So I wanted to be obedient to the Lord, and every time we've taken a step of obedience, he has increased our faith by showing us how he can take care of us, showing us how he leads, how he guides and directs and provides. And that's what's built our faith. You know, that if we've got any measure of faith that's grown, that's where it's come from. But it started just with obedience. And so, you know, I can say to everybody here, young or mature, however we want to look at that, I can tell you right now that obedience is where it's at. You listen to what God is calling you to do. You listen to those desires and burdens he puts on your heart, and you obey God, he'll take care of you. When he takes care of you, your faith will grow. But oftentimes, when it comes down to what God's calling us to do, it's not always a matter of faith. It's a matter of obedience. And so, anyway, that's where we are. Now, what I wanted to do tonight was kind of, I want to talk about France and their spiritual situation and things like that, but I also just want to take a little bit of time. That's why my beautiful assistant's up here with me tonight. But I want to just talk about how life is going to be different over there. We haven't done this in any other church, so y'all can tell us whether it was an epic fail or whether it was you know, something we need to do again. But one of the first things that's going to be quite different, and it's going to be a huge adjustment for all of us, is going to be, of course, the language barrier. And so I don't speak a whole lot of French. I'm learning. I speak more now than I did when I said yes to the Lord about going. But you know, I'm trying to learn. But that's going to be a big deal. And even though I'm studying a lot, actually there's a lady in North Little Rock. We were up there with Brother Lynn Rayburn this morning, and she let out a string of French words about that long. And as much as I've been studying French, I had absolutely no idea what she said or any idea how to answer her back. And that's what life's going to be like. We can try to do all the studying and all the language programs going over here, but when we get over there, there is going to be a barrier of language. And so really what we're all going to have to do is, the kids are going to be going into public school over there, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to settle down here, put them in Star City. They've always been homeschooled, and so we wanted to get them, sorry kids, they don't want me to, homeschool is like a word, they do not, that's like some kind of disease or something, you know, they don't want me sharing that with everybody, but they've always been homeschooled, and so we wanted them to get kind of an idea of what it's like to be in public school and things like that. And so when we get over there, they're going to go to public school, and they're not going to have English lessons, you know, they're not going to have lessons in English. They're going to walk in just like immigrants would if they came to Star City. They're going to be thrust into classes where they are only speaking French, and they're just going to have to learn the language. That's going to be really tough. Now, on the same side, that's exactly what's going to happen to us too. When we go to language school, and we're going to be there for about a year to 18 months, depending on how hard-headed I am. But when we go to language school, we're not allowed to speak English in our language school. Now, if we get out, we have friends, or we want to speak English at home, that's one thing. But when we step in those doors, no English is allowed. As a matter of fact, they're going to separate us. She'll be in one class, she'll have one teacher, I'll have another. And I think a lot of that so that we can't look at each other in class and start speaking English to each other. So we are going to be fully immersed in the language, and that's the way to learn. You know, that's what we're going to start picking it up. It's going to take months to get there to where we can actually start communicating effectively with people, but that's where we are as far as the language is concerned. Now, another area that we have is that's going to be different is shopping. I was going to let Nikki talk about that unless she wants to add something to the language side of it. All right, so she's going to talk about shopping.
Okay, so shopping is a lot different there. What you do is you take a bag, because they do not have any kind of plastic bags at their stores, so you have to buy bags or, recyclable bags. We found that out in California. You have to do that there too. You take your bag with you, and every day you go to the grocery store, every single day. And you would buy your staples, for the week or whatnot, but if you want fresh, you have to get fresh meat, fresh bread, fresh vegetables, everything would be a daily routine. So when we go to the school, to take the kids to school, we'll be walking to school, and we'll walk them to school, and then we'll go, they actually have a 2-hour lunch for their school. So we'll go pick them up for their lunch, take them back home, feed them, take them back to school, and then we will go grocery shopping while we're on our break at language school. And then we'll go back home. And they don't eat until about 7 o'clock at night, so that's going to be a lot different as well. Bread there is their main staple, and their baguettes, which are delicious, by the way. And they're only about 59 cents for a baguette, I guess you could say. And that's one of their main foods. Each meal you have bread with your meal. They don't have peanut butter. That's going to be a big thing in our house. We love peanut butter. So if you want to send peanut butter to France, we're all about that.
Also, the largest container of milk you can get is a liter. And but most of the milk people buy. Anybody ever heard of shelf milk? Do you like it? No. Yeah. So that's what a lot of people use. It's just boiled and boxed milk. And that's what they eat their cereal with, things like that. So milk's going to be quite a bit different over there as well.
And eggs are a little bit different there as well. None of that is refrigerated. So we have a funny story about that, actually. A lady